I recently did a blog post going over the best accessories for landscape photography. Some of you wanted me to do a video about it where I can show some examples. So if you prefer reading, head over to adamkappa.co.uk. I'll link it down below. But I basically split my accessories up into two sections. There's essentials. So if you're going for a certain look, like if you're trying to smooth out water, then you need ND filters. And then there's excuse killers. So if you've got an excuse for not going out, like it's raining, then I've got a rain cover for the camera. So got no excuse to not go out really. So let's go over the excuse killers first. So the first one is a decent camera bag. I use the Low Pro Whistler 450 AW. I've already done a video going over this fully, but the main pros and cons are, let's start with the cons. Cons are it's quite expensive. It was £250 when I bought this, but when I wrote the blog, it was up to 280. So I'd just keep your eye out if you are wanting to get this, because maybe you can get it a bit cheaper. The other con is it's quite heavy, but that's mainly because of the stuff that I've put inside it. I'll show you. So in this bag at the moment, I've got, I hope I don't pour this out. I've got 5D with 135mm attached, got a 7D with a 400mm. I've got a spare lens, and I've got my filters, and I've got batteries. I can usually get my vlogging stuff in this section here if I squeeze it all in. The pros of it are, you can carry your outdoor gear in the front section, in here. It's got a rain cover built into it, in here, and you can attach a tripod onto the side of it really easily. I tend to just put one leg underneath here, and then this strap under two, well, over two, and then this one over all three. And then when that's attached, it's pretty secure. And then you access all the camera gear by the bit that's right next to your back, so no one else can get into it when you're wearing the bag, which is useful if you're in an area where there's lots of people. Like we were out skiing the other week and there was loads of people around, but I never questioned it once that someone would be in my bag. So that was a big bonus for me. I wouldn't buy a bag without this bit attached to it. And the other bonus to that is it's really quick and easy to get into it. So you could just stop, put your bag on the floor, grab the camera out, and then you were shooting straight away. I think that took me 5 seconds when I did the review video of it. So when it takes 5 to 10 seconds to get your camera out, it just makes it a lot easier. The other good thing about it was it's got a hard case on the side, so you have to like really put a lot of effort in to damage it. And I fell more than I'd like to admit when we were skiing, and it held up fine. I landed on the bag multiple times and everything was where it was meant to be, and nothing was broken, and no water got inside the bag. I hit the deck before. I'm bleeding. Still got all my teeth though, so there's no faults there really. And then the next excuse killer is, like I mentioned before, it's basically a coat for the camera. If you don't want to spend the money on it, you can just use a plastic bag or a shower cap from a hotel room. If you're shooting events and stuff though, that does look a bit dodgy, but I used plastic bags for years. But basically what you do is, this goes inside the cover. I tend to attach the lens hood as well, just so that no rain can touch the front element. And then you can still access all of the controls from inside. So it's quite simple to set up. And yeah, the only downside is the cost, really. I'm not sure why it was so expensive, but that's the way most camera stuff seems to be. Then the next one is, you can get bubble levels which fit onto the camera hot shoe. I haven't actually got one at the moment because this camera's got one built in, but what it does is you get a spirit level on the camera and you can see when it's level. I find it really annoying when it's not quite level, like if you've got water in the scene and it's sort of tipping down. I tend to delete images like that, so if you can get it right the first time, then that makes a big difference. I think the bubble levels are like £2 or £3, which is pretty cheap for camera equipment. If you shop around, you can probably find one a bit cheaper. And then the last one is spare camera batteries. It seems pretty obvious, but when you're thinking about if you've got enough battery to like get enough photos, it's just one less thing to think about. You don't have to worry about if you're going to run out just as the sunset happens, so you can just be a bit more free to experiment. And the downside to these is the official ones are expensive as well. I'm sure they're like 40-50 quid just for that. But the pros are, you don't have to think about it anymore, and you can just keep on shooting and experimenting and get more photos. Another tip with the batteries is if you keep these in your pocket rather than in your bag, they seem to last longer when they're warm. So it's worth swapping them around in the camera, because if it's cold, like up on the fells, it just seems to eat through the batteries, which is really annoying. And then if we move on to the essentials, I know some people are going to disagree with this, but I put ND grad filters in. You can do HDR and get around this, but I've always found that getting it right in the camera is better for knowing that you've got the shot. Sometimes if you do HDR, things move around. Like if it's windy and the trees move, then it doesn't stitch together when you get home. You've just wasted an opportunity. And it just feels better getting it right in the camera. What they are is, it's basically a darkened piece of glass. So top half's dark and the bottom bit's see-through. And then what you use these for is to balance out light and dark areas. So if you've been photographing sunrises and sunsets and you're finding that you're getting like a perfect sky, like all the colours are there, but then the foreground is a silhouette and there's no details, you'd use something like this to just balance that out. So what you're basically doing is darkening the sky, which levels out the exposure. You can get different strengths. This is a 2-stop hard grad, which means that the transition is hard. And there's soft ones. So you can see the difference there. The one on this one, your right maybe, that's hard, and this one's soft. So this one's generally better for mountain ranges where there isn't like a defined edge. So like maybe like where them baskets are, you'd use this and balance it. Whereas the hard ones are good for seascapes where there's that defined line. That's without the filter. And then that's with, you can slide it up and down to affect it. Probably somewhere around there. And then with these, I'd say the pros are getting it right in camera, and you just know you've got the shot. And I'm always happy with the shots that I get when I do this. I know it takes a bit more time, but I don't know, just feels better. And the cons are, it's an extra thing to carry. You've got to buy a, well, you don't have to, but it's easier if you buy a holder. So this is a holder for it, and then the filters fit into those slots on the side here. So this, then you need to get these adapters which go onto the lens, and then this holder fits onto this adapter. So I guess it is a bit of a faff, but I think if you've got the time to do it properly, then it is better. And then the other one is ND filters. Which are up at the house. So the last one is ND filters. I put these in the essentials section because of what they can do. I rarely ever use them though, but what they are is basically a darkened piece of glass. They're similar to them ND grads that I showed you, but they're solidly darkened, so it's like even top to bottom. Like the ND grad, you can get different strength versions of these. This is a 6-stop. I use the Lee filters. I found they've been really good, and I've got the holder, so everything fits into the same thing. And you use them for like smoothing out water. You can smooth out clouds, and then if you do a long enough exposure, you can get rid of people that are walking through the scenes. The pros are them bits I just said. The cons are they're quite expensive. It's another thing to carry, and I don't really like the look that they give, but that's personal preference. If a client wants it, then I'll do it, but I wouldn't choose to use these. And then another filter is the polarizing filter. I use Hoyer filters, and what these are, the circular polarizers. So it screws onto the front of the lens. To change the effect, you've got to spin it around. So that bit's attached to the camera, and then this outer bit spins around. Then they're good for getting rid of glare on water. So if you watch the water here, say how it's really bright, just behind the tree, like here, as you twist it, the water is going to get darker. And around there. And it just helps make it all stand out. You've got to be at a 90-degree angle to the sun for it to work, but it can make a massive difference, and it just helps bring out the colours a bit more. I'd say I use that the most. It's not always the best filter to use though, because sometimes it takes the reflections away from the water, which can take away from the image. But if you use it in the right situations, it is really good. If I had one filter, it'll probably be that one. The only downside to using these circular ones is you need to have one for each lens. To find out what thread size that you need, if you look on the back of your lens cap, there will be a number on the back. So like if you see at the top here, that says 72 millimeters. So I need a 72 millimeter polarizer for this one to work. And then the last thing is a decent tripod. I use a Manfrotto 055X Prob. They don't make this anymore, but when you look in, I'd try and test them out in the shop if possible, because you want something that's solid, because if it just blows around in the wind, it's pretty pointless. And I like how this one, you can change individual legs. So say this was a rock, or you just like stood on the drop. You can put one leg up here, spread this out, and you got a solid base. And the other good thing about using the slightly better tripods is they have these quick release plates on. So these little plates fit onto the bottom of the camera, and then if you imagine this is the camera, all you'd have to do is put it onto here, press it down, and then you're locked in and ready to shoot. So the pros of this are it's solid, you've got a solid base, so you can do long exposures. It's also good so you can set up your composition and then wait for the light to change. It sometimes takes a bit of time, so once it's ready, you can just keep an eye out and then click it when it's right. The cons are, it's quite heavy, I guess. I'm not sure how heavy that is. I'll put it here. So you've got to carry that. It's an extra thing to buy, but I think the pros easily outweigh the cons when it comes to this. I would say that's probably the number one thing to get if you're getting into landscape photography. It's just everything's better about it. And I would say you don't have to get all this. If, like we were saying with the ND grad filters before, if you've been going out and photographing the sunset and you're finding that the sky's right, but you're getting a silhouette, then maybe ND grad filters are the next logical step for you. If you don't shoot that, it's pretty pointless you're having it really. So I'd recommend finding where you're having problems and then trying to find the next step. Buying things just for the sake of it isn't going to help, and it's just going to cost you a fortune in the long run. So I hope you found that helpful. I'll put a link to my blog with more info down below, and I'll put links to everything. There'll be affiliate links, so if you want to help support the channel, use those. That'll be massively appreciated. I've also got prints and greetings cards over on adamkappa.co.uk, starting from £2.50 with free UK postage. So the more that they sell as well, the more videos I can make like this. But please hit the like button and subscribe. Feel free to comment down below with any questions that you've got, and I'll see you next time.